Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lovely Grace Sampaga from Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English. Our topic for today is about persuasive speech in public institution. A persuasive speech is a specific type of speech in which the speaker has a goal of convincing the audience to accept his or her point of view. The speech is arranged in such a way as to hopefully cause the audience to accept all or part of the expressed view. Though, the overarching goal of a persuasive speech is to convince the audience to accept a perspective. Not all audiences can be convinced by a single speech, and not all perspectives can persuade the audience. The success of a persuasive speech is often measured by the audience's willingness to consider the speaker's argument. An example of a persuasive speech is a sales speech. During a sales speech, the speaker is trying to convince the audience to buy his or her product or service. If the salesperson is successful, the audience will choose to purchase the product or service. However, salespeople understand that just because someone does not make a purchase after the first sales pitch does not mean the pitch failed. Persuasion is often a process. People may need multiple persuasive pitches and a lot of outside information before they are ready to accept a new view. Components of a persuasive speech. While ethos is an essential part of a persuasive speech, pathos and logos are usually combined to form the best possible argument. While a speaker can attempt to establish ethos or credibility with an audience, is it ultimately assigned to them based on the audience's perception. If the audience does not perceive the speaker as a credible source on the topic about which they are speaking, they will ultimately have a hard time considering the speaker's argument. The logos in a speech or logical appeals are arguments that present a set of information and show why a conclusion must rationally be true. For example, arguments heard in court are logical arguments. Pathos, emotional appeals, are appeals that seek to make the audience feel a certain way so that they will accept a conclusion. Negative political ads, for example, often incorporate emotional appeals by just opposing an opponent with a negative emotion such as fear. How to succeed. Using an attention-grabbing device is a powerful way to begin a persuasive speech. If you can make your audience laugh, think about a personal experience, or tell an anecdote that produces emotion, they are more likely to listen to the content of your argument. Additionally, keeping a speech within 6 to 8 minutes makes the audience less likely to let their mind wander away from what you are saying. The effectiveness of a persuasive speech also depends on factors beyond the words of the speech. The willingness of the audience to accept a new view, the body language of the speaker, and the environment in which the speech is given all can affect the success of a persuasive speech. A successful speaker will do their best to establish strong ethos with their audience and combine pathos and logos to form the best possible argument. Audience analysis is an important factor when giving persuasive speech. For example, if a speaker is trying to convince the audience not to tell their children about Santa Claus using arguments that relate and resonate with them, such as encouraging them to remember how they felt when they discovered he wasn't real. successful than if the speaker shared a negative personal experience of their own. We start the course with a basic question. How can we craft and deliver messages that influence and engage audiences? In this course, we will consider the process of persuasive public speaking from the origination of an idea through post-speech analysis and evaluation. We'll draw on advice of ancient rhetoricians as well as contemporary scholars, including empirical social scientific investigations of effect, source credibility, and literary techniques. As part of our exploration of persuasive public speaking, we'll consider persuasion in multiple domains, including marketing, law, and health campaigns. We'll consider which challenges and opportunities are unique to public speaking venues while examining persuasion in mass and computer-mediated messages. There will be 2 major formal speeches in the course, several brief speeches, written activities, peer evaluation, and class discussions. There are 3 types of persuasion in public speaking. The 3 kinds of persuasive speeches most often used in the area are beliefs and attitudes. These are speeches of fact, value, and policy. Goals of a persuasive speech: convincing, actuation, and or stimulation. The overall goal of a persuasive speech is for the audience to accept your viewpoint as the speaker. However, this is not nuanced enough definition to capture the actual goals of different persuasive speeches. Persuasive speeches can be designed to convince, actuate, and or stimulate the audience. Convincing. A convincing speech is designed to cause the audience to internalize and believe a viewpoint that they did not previously hold. In a sense, a convincing argument changes the audience's mind. For example, suppose you are giving a persuasive speech claiming that Coke is better than Pepsi. Your goal is not just for the audience to hear that you enjoy Coke more, but for Pepsi lovers to change their minds. Actuation. An actuation speech has a slightly different goal. An actuation speech is designed to cause the audience to do something, to make some action. This type of speech is particularly useful if the audience already shares some or all of your view. For example, at the end of presidential campaigns, candidates begin to focus on convincing their supporters to actually vote. They are seeking to actuate the action of voting through their speeches. Stimulation. Persuasive speeches can also be used to enhance how fervently the audience believes in an idea. In this instance, the speakers understand that the audience already believes in the viewpoint, but not to disagree that he or she would like. As a result, the speakers try to stimulate the audience, making them more enthusiastic about the view. For example, religious services often utilize stimulation. They are not trying to convince those of another religion to switch religions necessarily. There is an understanding that the congregation already accepts parts or all of the religion. Instead, they are trying to enhance the degree of belief. A successful persuasive presentation can completely change the trajectory of your career. Maybe you're an entrepreneur trying to convince a group of venture capitalists to fund your new company, or maybe you'd like your board to approve an expansion overseas. It's easier said than done. Of course, but far from impossible. With the right preparation, with that in mind, here are the tips to help bring any audience over to your side. Number 1. Research your audience. Who will be attending your presentation? What are their goals? What motivates them? What values do they most care about? Tailor the content of your presentation to your audience. Speak in a way that makes them feel like you are addressing them individually. This will raise your credibility and show that you're done your homework in advance. Number 2. Choose 1, 2, 3 goals. A good persuasive speech focuses on a handful of things, and that's it. You may have a slew of other ideas that relate to the point you want to get across. But if you talk about too many things, you will confuse your audience. Write your speech in a way that guides them through the most important ones. Number 3. Incorporate obstacles. Think hard about the challenges to your idea that are likely to come from members of your audience. Instead of dismissing them, proactively acknowledge these points in your speech and then carefully address how your solution will meet the goals of all involved. Number 4. Create an attention-grabbing story. You want to capture the attention of your attendees with your very first words. Do this by telling a short story to illustrate the goal of your speech. Make the story relatable to everyone involved. This can help soften the mood in the room, especially if you are dealing with a group that may be fundamentally opposed to your idea. Number 5. Practice like crazy. Conviction is the key to giving a solid persuasive speech. It is vital that you do not waver while speaking or lose your train of thought. Start your speech with a friendly "Thank you for coming," but instead with story to grab everyone's attention. Keep your intensity high to help sustain the attention of attendees throughout. Do this by practicing over and over and over again. Ask friends to listen to your speech and give you feedback. Then, incorporate their comments. Number 6. Memorize. Reading off a card will just distract your audience. Practice enough that you know your speech inside and out. Don't focus on memorizing every word. Instead, focus on memorizing the flow of your key points and examples you use to illustrate them. Number 7. Make eye contact. Successful persuasion happens when you are able to connect with another person. Do this by making eye contact throughout your speech. Don't just stare at one person, scan the room and focus on various people for short bursts. Number 8. Use repetition. Don't rush through your presentation. Speak in a slow and measured way. After explaining each of your handful of primary points, go back and explain them again. Repetition will help drive home your goals. Number 9. Finish strong. Think of yourself as an attorney arguing a case in front of the jury. Structure your closing statement the way a lawyer would, with flair and gravity. Once you've delivered your final impactful line, don't say, "Thank you," right away. Instead, wait 6 or 7 seconds and then say, "I'm happy to take questions." Number 10. Take feedback graciously. Listen intently to audience questions. Spend time with each one and don't exaggerate or pounce on ideas that vigorously challenge your thesis. Staying calm and in control will help your case. Persuasion is important in all presentation, not just persuasive speeches. Logic is a key tool in helping your audience follow where you're going. Listeners need to be carefully led through the connections you find obvious. Internal summaries and internal previews help explain those connections. 5 persuasive techniques. Number 1. Understand purpose versus topic so that you can engage and move your listeners. Number 2. Develop confidence, focus, and credibility. Number 3. Exhibit honestly, trust, and a conversational style. Number 4. Use principles of persuasion. Number 5. Maximize your nonverbal communications.